Let's be awkwardly quiet. I think it started, but
I
think we should
maybe if
just,
we're
like,
quiet, they'll go away.
yeah, shh. But welcome to the
Hi.
show and a brand new year that's off to a stellar start on our end,
Yeah.
technically speaking.
Fucking nothing works
Mm.
again.
No, I can run like every game at its highest setting, but I can't run Chrome and like or Skype at the same time. It's like, nope, that's too much.
Like, it's already sad how long we've been doing this, but it'll be even sadder. Like, it's now getting to the point where there's a real shot at the rate we're going. We could hit a decade, and none of this shit will fucking work, and we won't have any audience. And
That's the saving grace, is that we
scary.
don't really have any audience to fuck it up in front of. It's just us.
Yeah, yeah. We keep our shame in this little corner of Twitch,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that where shame belongs,
Only
in the dark corners of Twitch.
Only the bots and trolls will know.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new year, and that never gets old, people saying that as if it's some magical switch that flips rather than an arbitrary
Now things will be better. Everything that happened in 2016 is undone. It is now a fresh start.
That means whatever witch or wizard put us under that shitty spell for last year was like the weirdest, like, thou shalt be cursed, but only until the 31st.
If you were a horrible piece of shit every day last year, I got good news for you. Things will be looking up. You will be very likable now.
And the year ended with a bang for me being an Ohio State fan. I don't know what the hell that was. I know you're not a big college football guy, but man.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, they got shut out in their bowl game. Like, I don't remember what the final score
was. But you tell me that, and I don't know what that means. Because college has like fucking 18 billion bowl games.
Yeah, well,
and that's bullshit.
And none of them mean anything except for like the one that we were in Alabama, because they're in the playoffs, and they're not in the playoffs anymore, so that's over. But my Blue Jackets are on a roll. So
I think it's just crap for schools that will never like actually win a championship, like to make themselves feel better. Oh, but it's fine. We won the fucking Cinnamon Toast Crunch Bowl, and now. We have something to defend next season.
And the worst part is it's always been stupid, the sponsors, but now they're like teaming up. So it's like the Cinnamon Crunch Bowl presented by T-Mobile at NASCAR Park.
T-Mobile's Cinnamon Crunch Bowl.
Right. And then you get these schools like East Western Southern Branch, Ohio against, and it's like, what? Whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, I really was starting with sports to throw the Blue Jackets out there, because that's really awesome living.
Yeah, fucking good for you.
Pretty excited for them.
Good for you and your fucking happy sports teams. You fucking
don't worry, they always disappoint eventually.
I would kill for disappointment right now. Like, because now it's just hopeless. Everything's hopeless.
Clippers are doing good.
No, they're not. They broke a 6-game losing streak because like 4 out of our 5 starters are hurt.
Oh, well, last I saw, the Clippers were doing good.
They were one of the best teams in the NBA, and now it's fucking ruined because like now the bench has to do everything.
Well,
and the Devils started losing all the time, and the Eagles aren't going to the playoffs, and. Now suddenly everything's gone back to the A's being my best shot at like watching competitive sports.
Yeah, good luck with
that. And that won't fucking happen. So, goddamn.
So basically, sports is also your Overwatch loot box. Like, it's
just
all a bunch of nothing. None of it matters.
That's why I like Overwatch, because I like sports and I'm an asshole. So it's all pain.
I'm picturing the first song that you make with your new keyboard will be like, my life is all blues and grays, and they're all duplicates.
Man, fuck that. Fuck.
So screwed on that. I mean, I literally, without buying any, I think I bought McCree skin just because I thought I might regret it if I didn't. But other than that, I got every holiday skin except Torbjorn's. Just like naturally through loot boxes.
And honestly, like I talked about it last week, like after Christmas was over, I didn't even really care that much. Like I didn't care specifically about getting, like I wanted that Zenyatta skin. But I came to like once Christmas is over, like the holidays are over, I switched off all my holiday skins anyway. But it was just the principle of the thing that like I earned more loot boxes during that stupid fucking winter event than I ever earned in my entire time with Overwatch. I played that game obsessively for their stupid cosmetics. I fell in their trap.
A couple, yeah.
Yeah, I bought a couple, and part of that was, well, how easy is this? And I never buy shit like that. But also, hey, it would be cool to get that. So I got a ton of loot boxes, and then just this last weekend of the event, I had taken a couple days off, and that was, if you actually wanted something, you wouldn't take days off. You would at least get a loot box. But I was like, you know what, fuck it, one last, shot since the event's winding down. And, it was insulting. This, when you get just grays and blues and they're all duplicates, fuck you.
The worst to me, the one that would have probably sent me on a homicidal killing spree was the 3 or 4 Zarya legendary emotes.
That's a character I never play for an emote I'll never use.
And then duplicates of it over and over again.
I got it 3 times after I already got it.
And it's bullshit that the duplicate's not worth the buying cost of the thing. It's like, oh, you could buy this for 3,000. Oh, you got a duplicate. Here's 100 or 200 gold.
The amount of times that game slaps you in the face with duplicates, it's insulting.
But it's funny to me because I got to just sit back and watch.
Fucking, I would laugh at you if the roles were reversed. This isn't a podcast based off of respect or friendship. But
no, I think we're both just waiting each other out to see which one of us goes clinical first.
This has been Njoystic has all along has just been one endurance challenge. But I was really. The problem is that's the wrong reason to play that game.
Yeah.
That game is great. Obviously, it was our game of the year pick, and I stand by that. But those events, they set you up with this mindset of I gotta get the cosmetics and stuff, some sort of material reward for your time. But they completely rigged that fucking game. That game within the game, and I was a little tickled when you told me about I think it was China actually where you have to do they have laws about what you can actually sell people.
Well, it was just it's if you're going to do it this way and it's going to be random chance and you're going to charge for loot boxes, that's basically gambling. You need to tell people what their odds are.
Yeah, if especially if you're taking money directly,
right. And so I'm kind of shocked that the U.S. hasn't had something like that, except for they're very slow to move on. It's funny because it's they're very tough on gambling. Gambling is strictly regulated, and this and that, it's bad. But if it's quasi-gambling, just like the sports stuff, the fantasy.
If you're betting on shit that isn't actually there.
Right, then it's okay. Then we'll move like snails to... And I'm not saying we need to march on. I think it would be nice. I think that's more than fair to ask, is that you let us know what our chances are for this stuff. But it's not, I'm not up in arms about it. I just thought that was funny that it was coming from, I thought it was China, but then I was thinking China seems like one of those countries that might not even allow Overwatch because they're very strict about their online stuff. But it's funny that came from them and we're still over here oh. And the other thing it does, though, is because it very much sometimes feels rigged. If the odds are 1 in 750 for this particular skin, is it really that? Or are there behind-the-scenes calculations that go into it?
Well, that's the thing. There's you're betting against the house, and you have no idea how the house actually does things. Right. And you're doing that every time you get a loot box. And I don't have a problem with that, really. But... the value of what you're getting is ridiculous. The fact that it isn't a one-to-one thing on duplicates is absurd to me. Even by what I'm saying now of don't play it for the loot boxes, even still, the loot boxes, the way they're set up right now are insane. So I think they still like. I've learned a very good lesson. It only cost me $7 in 2 weeks of my fucking life, but I've learned, to never indulge these events like that.
Yeah.
Play Overwatch because it's fun to play. If you don't feel like playing Overwatch, don't force it, because then you end up like I am now, where there's a new map out and I couldn't give a fuck
And then
because I just don't want to play that game.
Like, you say that, and the very next event's going to have a, like, Jack the Ripper Junkrat skin, and I'm just trying to think of something that you'd be, like, really, like, son of a bitch.
And as we all know, I'm into murder. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll do cool events and cool skins and stuff, but you like the way the system is now, you're not guaranteed or even remotely promised any of them. So it's just this thing of like you have to want to play that game, and
I think
to force it will actually burn you out.
Games or just consumer stuff in general, guaranteeing that we have a way to get it, and you really, really don't. I mean, you could spend hundreds of dollars and still, if your luck's that shitty, you're not going to get.
Yeah. There's no doubt now. My luck is fucking garbage.
But the other solution would be, instead of buying loot boxes, giving you a way to directly buy gold.
Yeah,
I'm really surprised that they don't do that, but whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, because they should, like, why put a price on these legendary skins then?
Yeah, and then
like, except for those like fucking grandmaster level people who just play the game all the fucking time, and they have like 20,000 gold all the time.
That reminds me, I was reading an article, and in fairness, this was an article that came out like about the launch of Overwatch, and it was just when how Google's terrible at serving you relevant, like, up-to-date stuff. But it was talking about the golden weapons, and it's like, oh, if you want the golden weapons, be prepared to grind. You might even have to play for a full day. And I'm like, let me do the math on this. I think I needed something like 200 wins in ranked competition to get a gold weapon. And even at a 50% win rate, that's 400 matches. And matches probably average, 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes? Some are
and competitive.
Because you have to go both rounds, for and against, and they can go
and it can go into crazy overtimes. Like, there is no like set like, oh, I'll be done in a minute with an Overwatch match. It could fucking go on forever.
But it can be 5 minutes too. So I think 8
you
to
could
10
get
minutes is a fair.
Or stomp someone else.
So if you let's say you had 200 wins, I think is what if you average 50, that's 400 games you'd have to play. At 10 minutes a game, that's 4,000 minutes of Overwatch that you'd have to play to unlock one gold weapon. And it's like, be prepared to grind a little bit. That's where I've noticed people with them, because there's people that just play a crazy ass amount of Overwatch.
Yeah.
But
most of the streamers I watch, they have like fucking 15.
Right.
Like, because they just play competitive and they do it all fucking day. Because streaming is their job, or they're professionals.
Right. But other than that, like, I've basically given up. One day I might like notice and be like, hey, I can get a gold weapon. And then I will never will, because I'll be too paranoid that I'll pick the wrong character. That's what I do with. That's why I have enough for some of the regular legendary skins, and I still haven't spent it, because it's like, but if I buy it for this character, in a week I might not play it that much, and it's stupid, because who can? None of it's important. It's all cosmetic, but whatever.
Yeah, I at the rate I play that game, I reckon I will have a gold weapon, or be able to buy one by the end of season 4. Yeah. Because you get those bonuses at the end of the season, right. and that's where I get the largest chunk. But you get less and less, because I was in platinum last season and I got more. Now I'm in gold tier, so I'm not going to get as much. And
unless you finish in platinum, it goes by what you finish.
Well, it goes to your season high, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting up to platinum. I know it. I'm gonna.
Difficult, and I think I never think about it while I'm playing, but it's probably the influx of new players because of the holidays, people that asked for the game for Christmas or whatever. Plus, I think it was on sale, but it's been really, really bad the last couple times I've played it. I haven't done ranked for a while, But just about the stuff that always pisses us off, the getting on the point and pushing the payload. People are about average shitty at that. But just that whole, like, I was doing the mystery mode right before it's gone. I wish they would have at least kept that around just as a regular non-holiday mode. But it was nobody. We were on attack on Hanamura, and nobody would push through that first fucking gate. I was Mercy, and I'm sitting here healing people, and nobody's pushing through. So finally, I'm just like, fuck this, and ran to the point as Mercy. Got there, and for like 30 seconds was holding off 4 of them, just, you know, running around and jumping and shooting a blaster, and still nobody came through the gate. It's like, at this point, it's 5-on-2. Fucking push the point. And and that's just one example, but that's just the kind of teams I've been on lately. Now, we've still won plenty because the other teams are equally as inexperienced, but it's been pretty frustrating lately.
Yeah, I didn't know they got rid of the mystery heroes. That's fucking stupid.
It's sad.
And I didn't really and the new map kind of sucks.
Yeah, I didn't like. I only played it once. I was doing some quick play last night, and it just kind of randomly got it, and
it's just too claustrophobic. Like there's too much there's too many little structures in between everything, I think. Like it's
our match on it was epic because we went down 1-0, then tied it up, and then in the tiebreaker round we were down 99% to 0 on the point and managed to take control and hold it all the way to win. So that was a pretty cool.
I mean, match, and that's the game. Right. Yeah,
I love that. It was nice for once being on a team that didn't just give up. I want to say the match before that or the match before that, I was on a team that we had, 2 people grouped up and the rest were randoms. And of course, the 2 that were grouped up were on attack Hanamura, and they were Hanzo and Widowmaker. So they were obviously just trolling. We also had a Genji that wasn't part of that. So it's like, oh, great. So halfway through the match, I'm like, well, if we're going to play this game, I'm just going to play as Bastion. Like, why the fuck not?
All right.
But it was just one of the... I've calmed down, and it wasn't ranked, so it didn't matter anyway. But it's just one of the... It's frustrating the amount of matches you get in that all it takes is one person on your team to just be fucking around. That it's like, well, that was a waste of 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was that... like you were talking about, that influx of sort of new players around the holidays that I have to assume is the reason why, like, quick play and mystery heroes for me, that, this last weekend, the game was miserable. Like, I didn't have any fun at all because you're either on competitive mode where everyone's a dick, even though they're the ones who are too fucking incompetent to just shoot a Zarya when I drop her to 1 health. They run away.
Right.
That is pissing me off. Like, I'm back to where I started with this game, where it's like, fucking shoot Zarya. Why is no one trying to kill her?
That's the other thing recently. I can't tell you how many times I've come across
Zarya and Mercy. Who can fuck you up?
Right.
Prioritize, goddammit.
I can't tell you how many times I've come across, like, one teammate, like, 1-on-1 against an enemy, and I'll drop in and be like, getting him, like you said, he's down to like 10% health or less. Then I turn around and the other person that was sitting there is run off somewhere. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
So I get some douche who's like, you should have said you couldn't DPS. It's like, fuck you. I took Reinhardt and Zarya down to 1, and you all ran away. Like, get a fucking kill before you talk shit. My damage was fine, assholes. So you're either playing that mode and you get stressed out and mad, or you try to play, I don't want to get mad. I just want to relax. And then I get even madder because these people don't know how to play yet.
Yeah.
But I'm not yelling at them, but I'm fucking mad because I want to win.
That's what I was going to say about when you said, well, I'm at the point where I don't care about the loot boxes anymore. It's like... But it's like, you can say that, but still deep down you do. It's like, that's almost like a tactic you're trying to trick the game. Like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I don't care. Go ahead and fuck me over. And then it keeps doing it, and you're like, God damn it.
Well, I honestly don't care about the loot boxes, but when you're not getting anything out of the loot boxes, and you're just fucking losing, if you're having a bad day, like, it's hard to have any motivation to play fucking Overwatch. But it's fine. I'll go back to it. I took a huge break before this winter event, and I'll probably take
Yeah,
another
and
one. The thing is, I had so much to play.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. At least when Overwatch is being frustrating, there's a lot of alternatives right now.
Right. I finished Titanfall 2, and that game's excellent. At least the campaign is. Like I feel like I feel strange, like an outsider, but I did not enjoy what I played of the multiplayer. It didn't seem bad, but it just seemed very like I've played that shooter a million times.
Yeah. I mean,
like the mobility stuff, like
right.
being able to run on walls and stuff, that's all cool. But yeah, I've done it. Like I'm not necessarily wall running and stuff like that. That's smooth, but I've played this type of shooter before. There's like no surprises to the modes. The game has its hooks, and it's being as mobile as you are, and then having the ability to bring down a robot.
Yep.
And then that stuff feels good, but it didn't do anything for me on a multiplayer level. The campaign though, when those guys like design levels around that stuff, they make some really excellent shit. Like I was surprised how good it was, and I was like remembering how it felt like interacting with a level. It felt how I kind of remember like Half-Life 2 feeling. Not in terms of like game feel, because Half-Life 2 is kind of a clunky game, but just that was a very important game in terms of like what you could interact with, how you could interact with a level in first person, and like what could be a weapon and what could be a mechanic and stuff like that. And I got glimpses of that in like Titanfall 2, except Titanfall 2, the tools aren't so much physics, it's your agility and and then again the giant robot, which also feels really awesome. So, and I was surprised how much I liked the story. I didn't necessarily like the ending. I feel like they kind of do a bait and switch and then bait it again and try to set up a sequel, and I never liked the cliffhanger. And I think if they going the direction they did, it's like either go that direction or pick another way. Don't be like, but what happens in Titanfall 3? Like, just there might not be a Titanfall 3 because you're with EA and they're fucking retarded, and they released it at a horrible time.
I think I don't know. I'm not a financials guy, but I think it still did pretty well, but just because it got so much positive like buzz when it came out. I think a lot of people were surprised by how good the campaign was.
Yeah, and I'm one of them. I think it was, I think Doom was a little better, but those are two completely excellent campaigns. In a time where it felt like, for me, like first-person shooter campaigns were kind of dead. Like they Call of Duty fucking Modern Warfare was a lifetime ago, and then I've played like decent shooter campaigns since then, obviously, but there just didn't seem like the priority of a Titanfall 2, and we know that wasn't the priority of fucking Doom, throughout its development, and arguably even now when all the shit they put out for is multiplayer stuff. So yeah, but I liked BT. The robot, he's a fucking great character. Like, the game does a really cool thing that I appreciate, which was they just sort of established, like, look, these robots are robots, but they have personalities and they have opinions. So we're just going with it. There's not this like, oh, I need to learn what it is to have a human pilot and be human and shit like that. Like, he already has his convictions and stuff. Like, there's a point in the story where like one of your superior officers is talking to the robot and is like, we'll get you a real pilot soon, and because you're not a real pilot because they're assholes. Yeah. And BT's like, no, he's my pilot. I'm not. Fuck you.
I didn't realize that the Titans or mechs or whatever they're called had like their own personality.
I don't know if they brought any of that into the multiplayer in the first game, or like I think they had like their voices maybe, but this is like, this campaign really fleshes out like, no, BT, he has, memories of his first pilot. He has opinions on stuff. He kind of has a dry sense of humor at times. He is a robot. So there is like funny sort of clever moments of like, you give him a thumbs up before doing something stupid, and he like kind of looks at his hand and like tries to like mimic it, but he doesn't really understand it. But like the fact that they didn't do this like he's this obnoxious AI until the end, and then he does something completely out of character. Like he has a character, and that character's consistent all the way through the plot. So like when he does things where he's seemingly putting himself on the line for you, that goes to like, that's not just robot doing robot thing. It's, I'm protecting my pilot, and that's what I'm programmed to do. That's what I want to do.
Better than or more meaningful than Cortana?
Absolutely. Because Cortana bugs me on Windows 10 every day. I think out of all the games I played, that was probably my favorite character of the year. Ended up being BT. I was really impressed with how they made that character work, and they tell a really cool story with him. And your character is, he doesn't talk a lot in terms of the story except to BT, and I kind of like that because it prioritizes like that interaction is sort of what drives the story, is like you and this robot sort of getting to know each other, getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
Yeah, I was thinking of that song or the like My Buddy song, if you remember those commercials, except with my robot or my Titan. That would have been a good commercial for it, but
no, it wouldn't have. People would have been like, I'm getting Battlefield 1 now.
True. Which is also EA, so EA wouldn't have cared. They're like, that's fine. We don't care where you throw the money.
And fucking Respawn would be like, what the fuck? Which I'm pretty sure they were. Which was like, what the fuck? Why'd you do this?
Yeah.
But it's an excellent game. I think I recommend it. It's easily on my top 10. So, yeah, go check that out if you can, if you have the means to play it. I say that solely for the campaign, so I think that's saying something. Where it's like, maybe you'll like the multiplayer. I think you'll definitely
for the campaign. Are you a gamer?
You're right. We only recommended 2 of them now. So I played that, and then I played. I don't know where I got the impulse to buy it. I was listening to the Giant Bomb podcast where they were doing their Game of the Year stuff, and they brought up a game called Pony Island.
Yeah, well, if Giant Bomb jumped off a cliff, would you? Probably.
No. Well, man,
swayed by it. No.
You're right. But actually, how this story worked out, like they weren't recommending Pony Island necessarily. Like they weren't hating on the game, but
they just
2 of them
mentioned it. Yeah.
Well, they were talking the award was like best computer or something, because there was a lot of hacking games, I guess, in 2016. And they like 2 of them were talking like, they were saying like, it just got to a point where it got really hard, and like I didn't feel like playing it anymore. And I'm like being the smug shit that I am, and not even to like rub it in their faces, but just to like prove like I can fucking beat it. It can't be that hard. And it was like $2 on Steam. I don't know what it is at now. I suppose I could look.
Probably 5.
Yeah, something like that. It's a really cheap game. But anyway, Pony Island is a game where you are in purgatory on basically Satan's arcade cabinet. It's $5. And he's having you just play this mind-numbing game called Pony Island where you just jump over shit and, like you get this laser beam weapon to destroy enemies, but like you have to earn that, like, because like once the devil sees like, oh, game's too easy, so he just starts sending enemies at you and they instantly kill you. And how you progress through the game is you just take advantage of these little glitches in the game, because it's just a shitty made like DOS graphics game where just like these little openings happen and you solve these puzzles, and the puzzles kind of look like lines of code, but they're more like it's more arrow dragging, like so it's just this line of code and then like this sort of cursor scrolling through it, and you have to like place arrows in between it to change the route of the cursor. And that will give you power-ups like the laser, and it'll, it undermines what the fucking devil is trying to do to you.
You're hacking his game.
Yeah, you're hacking. And he adds a lot of twists to it. So first it's just this really simple, stupid auto runner platformer he has you playing, and then he like gives it like a sort of old school adventure game overworld feel where you're going sort of Mario Bros like level to level, but you, in order to like get out of it, you have to like notice like, oh, I can move my character if I click here and then I click here really fast, my character moves off the set path and cuts through somewhere, and that gets you something you need to do the next thing. It's a really interesting game. Like they do a lot of neat stuff with it. A lot of it seems kind of like they're trying to capture the spirit of Undertale. Almost said Underworld. I don't know what. They're trying to capture the spirit of Undertale a little bit, and I don't think that stuff quite works. And it seems a little transparent, but the overall experience is really unique. And I wish I had played it before the show last week when it was all on sale, because then I could have been like, yeah, go pick it up because it's $2. But I don't know honestly what the Giant Bomb guys had trouble with. No part of the game seemed that hard, but then again, they had done a lot more in The Witness than I had, so just I guess two different types of thought for puzzles. So
yeah, that's what's funny. It's just everybody has their own way of like viewing and approaching things like that. So I don't even know what my point was going to be. I'm distracted because I'm running the trailer in the background, and it's like I said on Twitter. As soon as you mentioned it, I'm like, well, you can't hear someone like you playing a game called Pony Island and not look it up.
Yeah, there's not.
Right. And so
I did play Stardew Valley, so that was completely out of my wheelhouse. But
nothing wrong with that either. But I mean, it's just not the words that you.
But
expect to see
if I'm playing
Twitter feed.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Pony Island on Twitter. There's something up.
Right. And I'm like, is this like a dress-up, like paper doll game about ponies or what? So I checked out the trailer, just ran it in the background here, and like afterwards I felt high. Like, I don't know what the hell it was I just watched. It really does not explain the game at all. So I've been curious to hear you talk about it.
And you don't really get the explanation for it. Like, you don't really have an understanding of what really happened throughout the game until it's over and you kind of think about it a little bit. Because like it's one of those games where there's like kind of a secret ending, and once you get that, like you sort of see like what the overall setting is.
The devil all along.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Because if you did, you could fucking stop playing Pony Island. But yeah, it's not a very long game. And I don't think it's that demanding of a game, but it's a puzzle game at its core. Like, there is some platforming challenges and stuff to it, but it's mostly this weird puzzle game where you're trying to find all the secrets. So I recommend it, but I don't. It's hard to recommend puzzle games is what it taught me, because if like people are like, oh, if these guys at Giant Bomb are like, oh, you should definitely play The Witness, and I'm kind of like, The Witness was okay, it's kind of a pain in the ass, but I'm like, you should definitely play Pony Island, then it just goes to show like how brains work for puzzle games is, and what you prioritize as important information is completely different to how someone else will. So
you're just smarter than everybody else. That's what you're trying to say, but like, I mean, what you can process and what you can figure out, and the things that are just different than other people's. Sometimes it's sometimes you're just privileged with much more intelligence. Yeah, right. So I played that. Trying to think if I played Watch Dogs 2 last night.
which I kind of had been putting off.
Had you started that before? I was kind of thinking you did a little bit.
I didn't start it. I only installed it, and you have to go through all the Uplay shit to do that. So it took me on. I made sure to install it before I ever tried to play it, but I put it off a little bit because I was just like, I know this is a newer PC game. I've heard problems about like how it works on PC. I know I'm going to have to fight it a little bit. So I went through like my NVIDIA options instead of the game proper, just to make sure like, okay, what's in my computer? What does this thing need? Balance that shit out. And I did that, and I knew something was up when NVIDIA's like, oh, you can run fucking everything. You can be on Ultra, man. You don't have to worry, man. This is going to be great. I'm like, okay. So I started up, and looks good. And I do the tutorial area. It looks really good. And then sort of the title card cutscene plays. Everything's fine. I'm in the first area. Everything's fine. And then I cross. I don't. There's like 2 or 3 bridges in the fucking game. You're in the Bay Area, so sorry, Bay Area people. I don't know all your bridges, but I crossed one of your big bridges, and like halfway through,
think it's like probably Skinny Jeans Memorial Crossing, or like Beanie Hat Bridge,
Cup of Joe Way. So I halfway crossing the bridge, everything just fucking stalls, and it's dying on me. So I'm like, well, fuck. Try to reset the game. I can't. It's at the point where my computer's like fucking gasping for air, and I'm like, okay, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to close shit, and I close everything, or so I think, and then I try to restart the game, and it's like it's saying, oh, you need to close Watch Dogs 2 before you can open Watch Dogs 2, and I'm like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And I can't get Task Manager to open, and Windows 10 isn't responding. Everything goes to shit. So I restart my computer, open it back up, and spent probably the last, I have 2 hours, I think, into the game now. And that second hour was entirely me in the menus fiddling with things. Because it has like presets where it's like you can play on low, medium, high, very high, ultra. And it does the thing I kind of appreciate where it will tell you how much like virtual memory it takes up versus like what you have. But it like if you go to one of it doesn't default. It'll read your computer, but it won't default to the closest thing to what you have. It defaults to the lowest thing that your computer can afford. So it goes all the way down to low, but I have a ton of fucking like memory available after that. So I have to like go through the menu and tweak all the goddamn things to get it up to a point where it's like I'm technically on a custom low setting for it, but I have to like build it up to like medium, which is for the better part what my computer can handle. In terms of doing everything in it, I fiddled with it some more, and on like the higher settings, if I'm just in one area, everything plays fine. It's when I'm trying to do everything in the overworld map that it completely freaks out.
I had the issue with it, that with the Division, but it was similar symptoms. It was anytime it was like trying to load a new zone, because that's a big open world map too. But it looked like it was Uplay itself that was just like it wasn't hogging all my memory, but it was the hard disk usage. You know how it's like reading and writing from your hard drive was at like 100%, and it was like 98% Uplay. And that's why I hate that stuff. And I immediately uninstalled the Division. It did not get a second.
I'm sure it's Uplay, and I'm frustrated by that because what I played of the game seems cool. It feels really smooth, and it doesn't it's weird to say because I was such an anti GTA guy for a while, but I do wish the cars kind of felt more like GTA did. But they do a pretty close job of capturing that. So, what I've played it, I'm gonna keep at it. I enjoyed it, but there was a reason I put it off for about a week, because I was like, I know this is going to be more of a chore to get this game running in a passable state than it's probably going to be fucking worth in the end. But so I got that. I still have Final Fantasy 15 sitting here. I haven't touched it yet. There's things about that make me nervous. Like that they're going to add story shit to it and like patches and stuff. Because then I'm just like, well, then why should I play it now if you're telling me the story's not done? Like,
yeah, that's one of those like.
And I don't mean like, oh, they're adding DLC that's after the story. I mean, like, there are parts of the story they're literally planning on filling in, like, that happened during the game. And it's like, well, then I'll just wait until your game's done. So, and, like, if you're playing Watch Dogs 2, you probably don't need a giant RPG on top of that. But
sure you do.
Sure.
Yeah. It's the number one complaint about open world games is that there needs to be more to do.
Right. So that's about all I've been up to. I played a lot of Race the Sun and drank champagne for New Year's.
I
don't fucking like that game, but I was drunk and
that's a great game, but
it constantly made me think like, oh, you can do the next thing, and I did all the tasks to get to level 25, and now I'm just, I don't think I'll play it ever again. But
I used to love it as like a come home from work and chill game, because you don't really have to. It's not a chill game, especially like I don't know. It's been a couple of years since I played. I played it when it was first out on Steam, but it had like an apocalypse mode, which was just a faster and the whole world's like crumbling around you, and so there was nothing relaxing about it except for it was relatively mindless. Like, there's not any deep like customization or even strategy. It's just dodge, go.
Yeah, that's why I played it, because like New Year's, I don't know what necessarily came over me. Like, we had 3 bottles of champagne, and I just decided, I guess, I don't really remember the night. Yeah, I don't remember the night really, but I just know at like 10 o'clock I decided I'm gonna have this one entirely.
Yeah, and that stuff's dangerous too, because it sneaks up on you. Like, you think this is fine, I can handle this, and then next thing you know, it's Wednesday. And
no, I mean, honestly, I handled it pretty well. I drank a lot of water while I did it.
Oh, that helps.
And yeah, so
you were up at like 5 a.m. tweeting about
the Jungle Book.
Yeah, Jungle Book. So
yeah, and you were like, "Why are you watching the Jungle Book?" And I'm like, "I'm not. I just become a fucking movie reviewer when I'm hammered."
And I like that you said it as if that was a better thing. You're like, "I'm not watching it. I'm just randomly talking about it at 5 a.m. or whatever time it was your time."
Look, dude, if you can't relate, then I'm sorry, but you're not my speed of drinker. Like, if you don't go off on like fucking crazy tangents, that's all Twitter offers me now, is an outlet to like ramble about shit when I'm hammered. It's
yeah,
and it's always shit like that. I've had those thoughts at other times, but I knew they weren't important enough to say. And then put a bottle of champagne in me, and I'll decide, you know what, the world needs to know. The Jungle Book is fucked up. It's a great movie, but they fucked up.
Only better time would be like at a funeral. Like,
yeah.
Like, as everybody's sitting around reminiscing about the person, like after the eulogy and all that, and you're like, you know what's really messed up? The Jungle Book.
Yeah, let's talk about that remake. Why the fuck did that wolf have to die? I wasn't in the cartoon.
It was unnecessary, and I didn't think it really established I forget the tiger's name.
Shao Kahn? Or Shere Khan? Shao Kahn.
Shao Kahn.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat.
He's a bitch too, but...
You remember when fucking... if you had to fight Scorpion? That was nuts.
Yeah. I didn't think it really established him the way that... I mean, I get it. They wanted to show like how cruel and controlling he was. But
to me, it just made the wolves look like, spoilers, by the way. But to me, it just made the wolves look like fucking pussies.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what's your whole point then? If you're all a fucking pack and just one, stupid fucking tiger can come in and fuck your shit up, you know, like, and you'll just like go with it. Fuck that. Like all of you hit him at once, knock him off the cliff.
Yeah, a couple of you
You
might
know,
die, but it's better than living in fear, right?
right?
But
And they took out the thing that, like, I understand it was kind of a sad ending for the animated movie, but the whole point of that movie, I thought, was this idea of like, he eventually has to go home.
right,
And the beauty of that story, I thought, was like he eventually on his own he wants to go home to his people, you know. And it's not like some anti-jungle like this place is fucking dangerous. It's just like, well, there's a fucking girl, you know. I want to, you know, I want to know
which
about
ruins
my
everything,
people.
right?
Yeah, as we know, girls have cooties, and they got him. And the bear's like, oh fuck this, we're in trouble. But no, I thought that was a really like important part of the story. And instead, this one is just like, oh, you beat the tiger, we win.
We win, yeah. Ta-da!
Ta-da! But I didn't rant about that. I only cared about the wolf because
Wolf, yeah.
that's my hang up with like a lot of movies, and it's the type of shit that I do like get irrationally upset about when I drink, which is like, why kill animals? There's plenty of people to kill. Like, have the tiger kill someone. Like, just some dude walking in the fucking forest. Like, I'd be more okay with that because it's just a movie. So, you know, the wolves didn't do anything.
But Bill Murray as Baloo was pretty good.
Perfect casting, I think. You know, but Bill Murray is usually perfect casting for whatever
Christopher
role he is
Walken
currently.
is King. I forget what that thing's name. King something.
The fucking Monkey King.
Monkey King is.
That's what I've always called him. That wasn't a bad pick. You know, you can't not compare it to that animated movie. And in the animated movie, there just seemed to be a natural, like, charisma and swagger to that character that, like, Walken is more awkward. And
Awkward, but intense,
even
and
in
like a little
CG,
like you're just waiting for that like psychotic.
Yeah.
Which that got over with. That character was, if I was a little kid watching it, I think that character would have been quite scary.
Yeah,
but
yeah, they made him a lot more frightening than he ever was in the animated one. But it's a good movie. I don't know, like, I don't know if I'll watch it again, but
yeah.
I enjoyed it at the time. But yeah, have you played anything? We should talk about video games if we can.
Well, Overwatch. I've played a lot more Darkest Dungeon. I'm still loving that game, but it's it's funny because it's one of those games. It's very hard. I mean, if you've heard about it before, the difficulty is one of the things that you'll hear about. But it's a sneaky difficult. I've been relatively successful so far. It's I think I talked about, you put parties together and you go on these expeditions. And if your character dies, like it kind of does that XCOM thing where they'll go, if they lose all their HP, they're on death's door. But if your party gets wiped, or if they sustain more damage after that, you know, they'll die permanently, and you can recruit new adventurers from town. I've only had one character, well, not one character, 4 characters. One of my parties got completely wiped, and that was relatively early on. Other than that, I haven't actually lost any characters. But what the game also does is every time you go on these expeditions, some of the abilities of the enemies or just some of the situations you get in causes stress. And if the stress builds up too much, it causes a lot of problems. Just naturally through the course of the game, they'll develop, they call them quirks. And some of them are good and some of them are bad. Like they can become kleptomaniacs. So when you find a loot chest, they'll randomly jump in and steal all the stuff so that you don't get it.
And then you'll have to put them down.
Kind of like that. You played Rogue Legacy, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
How those characters had traits, some good, some bad, and some just kind of neutral. They're just funny. But as the game progresses and as the stress builds, the quirks tend to get worse. And when between quests, when you're back in town, you can do things like have them drink at the tavern or go pray at the church or whatever. And some of them have certain quirks that only let them do certain things or prevent them from doing certain things to unwind. Like if they're, I forget what they call it, but alcoholics, basically all that you can do is drink to but then they'll do things like I send a character to the tavern, and that means you can't use them on the next trip because each expedition plays out as a week. I'm on like week 17 or something.
Mhm.
But if you put them in the tavern, that means they're not available for the next. So there's always balancing that as well. But I put the one guy in the tavern to drink to reduce the stress, and it did. But when I came back, it said, "Oh, he got too drunk and decided to buy a round for everybody in the bar, and so you lose even more gold than what it cost initially."
Nice.
Or I had one go to the abbey and pray at the altar to relieve stress, and again it worked. He relieved stress, but it said he had a divine vision, and nobody knows where he is now because he went off seeking some. And you're like, son of a bitch. Um, so
That's awesome.
yeah,
He's all better. He's in Jamaica now. So.
right. So it's really cool like that, but it's one of those games, and XCOM was the same way, where you feel like you're doing good because you're being successful on these trips, but you're not managing your stuff real well, and all of a sudden I find like my entire roster of people have these like debilitating like diseases or quirk, because you can get those as well, or quirks or just high levels of stress. But it's all funny. Like, it's stressful as a player because now every expedition I go on, I'm just eking by instead of like feeling pretty secure. And since I can't treat everybody all at once, the ones that I'm using are the negative things are just stacking up. Some of them have like 4 or 5 negative traits now, and you can only get rid of one at a time.
Yeah.
And you can only have so many on your roster. So now you're starting to weigh, like, should I just cut this person altogether and recruit a new one? But they do level up, and you can get, level up their skills, and they get experience. So it's real fun from that. It's very management, but it's all kind of fun and funny and stressful, like, management. It's not like, oh, well, you have to provision the food and micromanage this and that. But it's a great game. I'm loving it, and it's done so well. And it does that thing where combat is your kind of D&D style. Everything's a roll. So you'll get in these situations where it's like, my whole party, like, this is the last thing I need to kill, but my whole party's like at one sneeze away from death, but it's my turn to go in the combat, so attack, and then your guy will miss, and you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But fortunately, sometimes you dodge the enemy's attack. Like, it's worked out okay for me so far, but barely. I can tell. It's just I'm at the point in that game where I can feel that myself just like teetering on the edge, ready to just fall into the abyss and be like, well, that's game over.
Yeah. Well, cool game. Time to move on.
No, not that. Just like, I just lost my whole party. Like, time to start a new campaign. So, but it's fun, and like I talked about last week, the other thing I love about it is you can fire it up and just go on an expedition or two and not like have to dedicate 3 hours of your night. But it's addicting enough. If you have a 3-hour chunk of time to play games, you can sit and play it forever. So I played that. I also checked out Folktale, which I might have mentioned last week. I picked it up on the Steam sale, and it's it's kind of like that town building simulation game, but it also has an aspect where you have a hero that can just like go roam the world, and there's enemies, and it's almost like a Diablo style point and click action RPG from that, although very, very bare bones. And I played it for an hour or two. I just did the sandbox mode, and it seemed overly easy. I got to the point pretty quickly where my town was built up enough to be, self-sustaining and not really need anything more. And I just let it go run its course while my adventurer went around the map, and I killed everything I came across. None of it provided much of a challenge. So, and at least in the sandbox mode, it was interesting but not really engaging. It was too easy. But I haven't tried. There's a campaign mode. It's not a game that I expect to like be coming back and being like, indie game of the year, everybody has to buy this. And it's also one of those games that I think it's still technically early access, and it has been for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's always a thing. It's one of those games that falls into that category of early access where when it finally reaches like release, that really just means we're ending support for this game. It's actually marking like the death of it, not the release. But it's, I wouldn't necessarily suggest it, but I don't at the same time like regret spending the $2 or whatever it was on sale. It was very, very cheap. trying to think if there's anything else really. I played a little bit more of the I almost called it Syndicate because it basically is, but Satellite Rain. And that's one that I really can't wait to put more time into because it's really cool. It's been one of those weird weeks for me where anytime I have time to play a game, I'm mentally exhausted and don't want to play anything that I really have to invest myself in.
Yeah.
Hence the Overwatch. Although that Overwatch is kind of in the middle there. That's when I have enough energy to have to think and try, but not so much that I want to like.
Not enough to put into like a story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because by now it's all like muscle memory anyway. But so yeah, I think that's really all I've been playing though.
Well, we have a little time here. Do we want to? I think we teased it last week. We could do a little preview of the year ahead.
Yes.
What we're looking at.
Although I'll let you steer that one because I am so terrible at thinking future-wise of games.
I got a list. Don't you worry, buddy.
I figured you did.
Yeah. So January. Obviously the big one this month is probably Resident Evil 7. I know everyone was thinking Kingdom Hearts, but it's more Kingdom Hearts remakes is not as big as Resident Evil 7 probably.
Shockingly. Did you play the demo on that?
I did. And I think it's, you know, I mean, they've been updating that demo. So there's a lot of like shit to it now that I'm honestly, I'm a little too afraid to go back in and play. That was a very good demo.
Release a demo and then keep like adding to said demo. Like that's unusual. And
I guess, you know, I should clarify. I'm not sure if they added to it or people are just finding the secrets.
My impression was that they've added content to it or changed
things. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to say for sure. But you know, that game looks really promising, and I haven't felt that way about any horror game in years. Like there have been horror games that I've been interested in. There hasn't been one like this that like I'm genuinely like I'm excited for it, but I'm actually really nervous to play because that demo was really effective. Because to me, it taps into like they keep the spirit of kind of like unnatural shit happening, and it's probably all due to science that Resident Evil's kind of known for, but like they put it in a backwoods goddamn like kidnapping situation, and like that you know, that's what taps into it for me. It's like, you know, that shit could happen, man.
Especially where you live out there in Washington.
Yeah, we're known for our swamps. But that same day, there's Yakuza 0. I don't know anything about that. Like, I think there are like 2 Yakuza games.
There are.
They're coming out this year.
I want to say, and I think it's Yakuza 5 is coming to North America, if I'm remembering right. Like it's been out in Japan, but we just haven't gotten ours yet. And then 0, I think, is actually newer than 5, but we're getting it here first, maybe. I might be getting it completely wrong, but
yeah, that, you know, and that is something I think Sega should be held accountable for. Is like, I only played Yakuza 4, I think it was 3 or 4. But the fact that I already can't understand their series is pretty damning, I think.
And I got that 5 was wrong. It's 6. 6 is the one that's supposed to come out, and it's out in Japan already. But I guess Yakuza 0 is out in Japan too, and it did actually come out before 6.
Yeah, which I understand that part, but now that I'm like now I'm already confused because like wasn't there a Yakuza zombie game they made, and like, and what the fuck is the timetable of these?
Yeah,
and then I remember that I'm probably not going to play them, so you let it go. Dragon Quest 8 for the 3DS will be out that month.
I don't know if I can bring myself to play more Dragon. I liked it, but I put so much time into 7 and still got nowhere near the end. But,
you know what? I could probably go for a game like that if I could ever find a 3DS. Turns out you can't buy them right now.
I thought you had one.
My brother does. I bought him one, and I borrowed it. But with him, moving in probably the next couple months, like he will you will take that inevitably, and I don't really want to buy games for it if I'm not going to have access to them later.
Here's the kicker.
I did finish. Back to currently playing real quick. I did finish Phoenix Wright Spirit of Justice, which I only had like one last chapter in that to finish. So I did that these last couple of days, and like all I can say about it, I mean, it's still just a Phoenix Wright game. Anyone who's played them knows what's in store. But I do think it does something pretty impressive in the fact that, like, after this many games and after being through that many like different murder stories and different things with all these characters, the fact that they still managed to make like the big twist of this game like powerful, like on an emotional level, like you feel for the characters when certain things get revealed on this last case, that like they do a really good job with those games. I think they're really underrated. But I won't gush anymore about the goddamn lawyer game. Only me and 5 other people on the internet adore.
No, I think it's got a pretty good following, and the people that like it love it.
Yeah, they're good games. They're just I think they suffer from some tedious stuff occasionally, but that's also another good one. So, and it's cool that in the digital era we can get these games. Like, we don't have to rely on Capcom being like, well, we don't really want to bring over physical copies, so fuck you. Like, now they can just slap it on the eShop and charge us way too fucking much for years.
And never put it on sale ever.
Never put it on sale. Valkyria Revolution will be out on the 19th, which seems really quick. I feel like I was just hearing about that game. I still need to play Valkyria Chronicles. I've had it forever, but I don't know when I'll get around to it. This was interesting. I just heard about this. Double Dragon 4. Huh. And they're doing it in the old sprites. So it's kind of like the Mega Man 9 thing of like, it's a new game, but they're going with the old model for it. So I think that's interesting. I don't think it will work for a game like Double Dragon. We'll see. I don't know what people's nostalgia for Double Dragon really is. So maybe they'll like it.
I love Double Dragon Neon, so if they can capture that.
That's the thing, though. Like, can you capture that in the old 8-bit, or was it 8-bit? I don't know. I'm not the huge Double Dragon buff, really. All I know is they fought with Battletoads and they were the ultimate team. Let's see, what else? That's about it. Like, there are plenty of other releases, obviously, in January, but it is a January. So not much of note. Neo in February, which, could go either way. I like that model. I like that people are seeing like what Dark Souls did and they're trying different takes on it. I just don't think it always works. So it's kind of like,
and I know the demo didn't get the best of receptions.
Yeah. But then again, people really liked Salt and Sanctuary, and I couldn't get into that game at all. For Honor on the 14th, which seems really soon. I mean, I'm going off Wikipedia here. These dates could have easily changed and nobody updated them. But I mean, that game looks interesting. What else? It's saying Mass Effect Andromeda in February, but on its actual page, it's saying March 21st, which either way seems really soon.
February, I think, is a new. I think they just announced that today. That it was. That was my impression. This morning, everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
So maybe it was going to be March and they moved it up, which is rare, but.
Yeah. So, and I think that was one of the best trilogies on the previous generation of consoles. So really liked Mass Effect, so I'll obviously play that, assuming I hear that it's polished and not like we're not getting goddamn goofy animations throughout the entire story that make me want to laugh instead of like,
well, in fairness,
engage
we don't
the story
know
anymore.
That clip that they showed, like, the character, she could have eaten a peanut right before and is allergic to
I've
them.
watched people like try to defend that expression.
Really?
Like I've read articles where it's like, well, the more I watch it, the more it looks like she's just fed up. And like, no, she looks like she's like just.
It looks like she's wearing a mask
frozen.
of human skin over top a regular face. Like,
yeah, she looks like a Mass Effect. She looks like one of those life-size Mass Effect figures they would make.
I was thinking like Martha Stewart after Botox, but
yeah, something wasn't right with that expression. Everyone recognized it. Don't try to defend it. Even the developers are like, look, it'll be better. So there's that. Horizon Zero Dawn at the end of the month. I mean, I think everybody who's seen anything for that game has walked away impressed. So
yeah, it looks like Far Cry Primal with robot dinosaurs. So
yeah, so pretty much better.
Right.
Far Cry Primal needed those. I don't think I mentioned that game at all last week talking about like our year in review. Like I completely forgot about that game.
Yeah.
At the beginning of March, Nier Automata.
That looks awesome.
I played the demo. I really liked it. I shouldn't say I really liked it because it did remind me of Metal Gear Rising a little bit. You can tell like there's that influence on it. But it did seem a little more fit to like how I approach action games. And like it seemed like they were doing a little bit of bullet hell stuff. So kind of got a Nier vibe, or not a Fury vibe from it a little bit. It is a demo that after you play it once, you do want to up the difficulty, and it might be one of those games that might be a little too easy, but it's too early to say.
That sounds perfect for me.
Right. So there's that. 2 Kingdom Hearts HD collections coming out for PS4. Look out.
You'll be playing them.
I will. I've already accepted. I'm going to buy them, but I'll probably stream them because that'll at least give me an excuse. Like, no, I'm just doing this to show them off to the world, not because I'm hopelessly addicted to a fucking bad series. Outcast Second Contact. I didn't know that was so soon.
Did you play the first one?
No, I'm not interested really, but I feel like I just heard of that.
It's been in development for a while.
All right, well, so old time
Outcast or Outlast, you mean?
Oh, maybe that's why I'm confused.
Yeah.
This is Outcast, so never mind. They're all the same. When you see Outcast or Outlast and then 2, buy it. Anyway, old time hockey, way more important. If you haven't seen old time hockey,
it looks amazing.
You go fucking watch the trailer because. Did you play Blades of Steel at all? Of course,
and Mario Lemieux hockey and EA's early hockey games and basically every hockey game until they went 3D.
Blades of Steel is probably the best hockey game ever made, in my opinion. I know I haven't played all of them, but I'm right. So, Persona 5 in April. That'll be big. Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition a few days after, but everyone will probably have bought Bulletstorm or Persona 5 before they could buy Bulletstorm. And if they haven't bought Bulletstorm, they'll probably spend their money.
Spend $50 on Bulletstorm.
Well, yeah, and if they don't, they're going to spend their money on Yooka-Laylee that comes out 4 days later.
And everything I see on that looks pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yooka-Laylee and I think Persona 5 both look really cool. Bulletstorm we've talked about on the show. We don't have to go over it again. Apparently there's another Bard's Tale coming out. I never played any of them.
I was going to say I'm not familiar with the series other than, I know of them, but I don't really know much about it.
Yeah. And then Shenmue 3, that has that tentative December date, which I mean, I don't think we're getting.
No, I was going to say I wouldn't hold my breath on that one, but
yeah. There was another one on here where I was pretty sure that there was no way we were getting it this year, but they kept saying we would. But there's other stuff. There's another Ni no Kuni tentatively scheduled for this year. Red Dead Redemption
awesome.
2.
That'll be Cowboy so probably awesome.
Maybe Sea of Thieves. Obviously, I'm very, very interested in that game. I don't know how well it will turn out, but I want it to be great.
And is that the MMO like Captain of Pirate Ship one, or is that
Sea of Thieves? Yeah, that's the rare
the one that the
open world
E3
multiplayer.
Yeah. The
one
that the E3
with the bad
was so terrible.
Yeah.
But I think because there's been a couple kind of piratey type games, but not like that. The other ones are more, I don't know, action RPG, but like old school, and I can't even remember what they're called. I keep confusing it with another game or two, but I think it looks like it could be really cool. It could be really bad.
And I mean, I'm willing to follow it and give it the benefit of the doubt until it comes out and I see where people land with it. But, anything with pirates, you'll get my initial attention at least. Zelda Breath of the Wild, obviously the Switch coming out, who knows what else will be with it. Probably not much because it's fucking Nintendo. I did read a thing that I guess Beyond Good and Evil 2 will be a year exclusive to the Switch.
Yeah, I only saw it in a tweet, which was a hilarious tweet because it said it'd be a Switch exclusive for a year. In other words, the entire lifespan of the console.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's true, but it was a funny tweet.
Yeah. The Detroit Become Human from your hero and mine.
Nicolas Cage. Oh wait.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage. That would be a better game.
Probably.
Yeah, because he would play every role, and they would all. I'm sure they would all be different.
And the final boss would be a cage full of bees.
Yeah, bees that it's like the Metal Gear Solid 3 boss who's just covered in bees, but it's Nicolas Cage. The Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy. I'm interested in it, but I know that's going to be a really
Bandicoot fan. So,
I mean, I grew up with the original PlayStation and stuff, so it was like that and Spyro. I played those games a ton, but I don't think they're going to doing a actual remake of them. To me, seems like a really bad idea because they came from a very, very limited time in 3D platformers. They can't
like the birth of the 3D platformers too.
They had to figure things out. Super Mario 64 gave you some camera controls, but even that was kind of awkward and weird. And in this game, it gives you a forced perspective, but then that means you have to kind of navigate this forced perspective, and you had to do it with a D-pad. And I liked those games. I liked that original trilogy. But I replayed those games a year ago. Not all of them all the way through, but just hanging out with friends, and it was fucking rough. So, what they do to update it, it can't just be a visual update, but if you do too much, do you destroy the feel of that game and its level design? I don't know.
See, that's what I mean. Between that and Yooka-Laylee, I'm way more excited for Yooka-Laylee. That's trying to take that era of games and that feel and modernize it, make a new one.
Yeah. Well, they also, they're going for a blueprint that I think they can bring to, modern gaming that works a lot better. The exploration based, kind of banjo platformer is a completely different breed than Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot was challenge platformer. Do these fucking stupidly difficult things, and you'll get a secret gem or some shit, and that'll let you get to a secret part of the level. That's even harder. The difficult platformer now has been perfected since, Crash Bandicoot went away. So now it's a really weird, really weird time to release a remake for those games. But I will say what they showed I thought looked pretty nice. In terms of the animation, the art direction for it, how they polished it up, visually, I think they're nailing it. It's just how will that game feel to play? Probably pretty, they have their work cut out for them. I'm not going to say it's going to be rough, but it'll be a tough sell. And then last one on my list, Nidhogg 2, which I love what they did to that art design. Like, if you haven't seen how they changed it.
It was funny because when they first announced it, you're like, oh, cool. And then you saw a screenshot, you're like, what the hell is this?
Right.
But then you, like, watch it, and you're like, oh, it works.
It's Nidhogg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just these weird fucking, like, doughy Muppet Men weapon fighting.
Kind of reminded me of, like, Clay Fighters from...
Don't say that.
Well, I mean,
then I'll remember Clay Fighters, and then I won't want to play this. But yeah, I think Nidhogg 2 looks pretty cool. I don't know when they're. All it says is 2017 on it, so who knows when it will actually come out. But what I've seen looks like more Nidhogg in a kind of crazy, a little creepy art direction. So
I like that the characters kind of look like doughy Homer Simpsons.
Yeah,
that should be coming out relatively soon, I thought.
No date on it yet. Who knows? We might not ever get that game.
It's not actually being made. They were just like, wouldn't it be cool if we made this? And somebody misheard them and said, they're making that?
They're making this? They're making Cuphead?
Yeah. Like, oh, shit, now we got to try to make this.
I'll never get over... I don't remember who you were talking to on Twitter, but when they said... it just looks like old Disney animation meets Mega Man.
Right.
And like that was like a bad
derogatory statement.
And I think I just sort of like stared at my monitor blankly for like 2 minutes.
I about guarantee it was Andrew that said that. Play critically.
I don't think so. I want to say it was Mike.
That could. Yeah. You're right. Past the sticks or whatever.
Yeah. I want to say
it was funny because it was the way he said it, like it was a derogatory thing, and to both of us, it was like one of the best sentences you could ever hear in your life. Like,
yeah, like, are you insane? It's like some of the best style animation meets like some of the tightest fucking gameplay ever made. Like, what? You don't want this? But yeah, I mean, to each their own. Just
sure.
That left me fucking dumb for a second.
But it was just. I mean, that's like saying, "Oh, you want to win that? All that looks like is a huge pile of cash."
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah.
That just looks like money and bitches to me, man. I don't know what the big deal is. I don't know why anyone would want that.
Right. So. The other kind of in that vein, well, it's not like the old school animation, but the Battle Chef Brigade, that's supposed to come out this year, I think. And that looks really cool. It's hard to describe, but the biggest thing for me is it's got that gorgeous hand-drawn, like frame-by-frame animation.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be pretty fun. It's far enough along in development that it's been like on show floors and stuff for people to play, and it's got a pretty good reception. So that should come out this year.
Oh, I guess Prey. People are really excited for Prey, and I don't get it.
No, and like we talked about it back when, because I think it was during the Game Awards or the Sony thing, one of them I think it was Game Awards, where they showed a brand new like trailer for it, and I don't know, I think there was some gameplay. It might have been like the first gameplay that they had showed, and people were losing their minds. They're like, oh, it's like BioShock in space. It's like, well, I know you like BioShock. I don't. So right off the bat, it's like the reverse of what we were just talking about. I'm like, yeah, it looks like, but I think part of it is I'm still so salty that like it's not what we were originally promised.
I don't care about that because I didn't care about what was originally promised. And I think I am a sucker for, a game taking a unique setting and really making you feel like you're slapped in the middle of it like a BioShock did. But nothing they've shown at Prey intrigues me really. Like it's not to say I won't play it or will follow it when it comes out, see what more people think, but just like the trailers and stuff, it felt like people were already giving it that hype like for nothing. Just like a trailer where like guys looking in the mirror, gruff. You know, like I've seen that. You know, that doesn't inspire a lot of hope in me that this will be good. Like I need to see it in action, and I don't need to just see him fighting shadow monsters. I need to see that world come to life before you compare it to BioShock.
Yeah, I've been strictly from a gameplay standpoint. The like shooter with, you got sci-fi like magic powers.
Then that's the last thing you should want to do is like compare yourself to BioShock from a gameplay
Right.
standpoint. Like I don't hate the BioShock gameplay, but
It's
that is not
special.
that's not the it's shooter. It's typical shooter garb at this point. I saw a new trailer for Rime. I don't know if you followed that game at all.
Not for a while.
Well, they haven't put anything out in a while, I don't think. But what they did just put out, like, this was, I think originally it was supposed to be exclusive to the PS4, but now I think they got the rights.
I thought Sony dropped them as a
yeah. And that's kind of interesting.
Sign, right?
Right. But I found it kind of interesting because people were also talking about like this last trailer they put out. It seemed like there was a noticeable downgrade to the visuals and stuff from there. So, you know, it looks like there's a lot of kind of trouble with how that game's been developing. But now they're saying it'll be out for PS4, the One, the Switch, and PC. You know, and it seems like they take a lot of influence from games I do like, so I'm still following it, but I'm not. It's kind of in that Last Guardian state for me, not to the same extreme because that was an absurd story that finally got a happy ending, but like just that feeling of like, okay, there seems to be trouble behind the scenes.
There's trouble brewing.
That's right.
Right here in Rhyme City.
Yeah.
With a capital R that doesn't really rhyme with anything.
That shouldn't stop you.
I guess trouble's still spelled with T, even if I'm changing the words to the song. But whatever. I'm distracted because I looked up the new trailer, and you're right. I mean, it doesn't look awful.
No, it doesn't look bad, but people were like saying like, oh, it seems weaker. And I haven't done a comparison or anything to check really, but it just.
The shading seems I can see some like the glitchy or jumpy shadows and that kind of stuff, but that's kind of stuff that it seems counterintuitive, but that's the kind of stuff that can be tightened up and cleaned up. I don't want to say easily, but closer to launch. Like typically when you're developing a game, the gameplay and the mechanics and the world design and that stuff comes first, and you can clean up the visuals. Like the models themselves and the animation looks good. It's just there's some weirdness on the textures and shading, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
also old Windjammers coming to PS4. If you never played Windjammers, you're missing out.
I've not. I don't know that I've even heard of it.
It's like a fast-paced like disc throwing like game. It's a really simple game. Giant Bomb have been playing. Not really. No. It's competitive. You throw the frisbee at each other. But like Giant Bomb has been playing that game throughout the years. But it's pretty fast paced and fun, and a lot of people were pretty excited when they saw it was coming to modern systems.
Yeah, that reminds me to jump back to. Well, it's not really currently playing. It's I got to play real quick, but I was over at a friend's house the other day, and he had Overcooked. I've been seeing a lot about that game. But I haven't bought it because it's a game that's really designed for local multiplayer, and so it wouldn't serve me any good to buy it. I only got to play it like a tiny little bit because he's got a young son that the second you bring out a video game controller, the kid's like, I want to play, I got to play. And it's not really he could play it, but it's not really a kid game. It would be a fun get four adults together and drink game. But I could see even in the, we just played through one level really. And I could see in that short time, how hectic, but in an awesome, amazing way it could be if you had some friends together playing it. Even two-player, it was fun, but it goes up to four, and it's one of those games that the more people you add, the more ridiculously awesome it's going to get. So,
yeah.
But anyway, that's not...
I just remember Jeff Gerstmann on their podcast saying that, they had just played like all the fucking Mario parties and they hated every minute of it. And he was saying like, I played Overcooked and it was just like one long Mario Party mini game to me.
Sure. And there's
So
nothing wrong with that if it's good. Now, I mean, it's not a game you're going to get like 100 hours of replay value in, but it's like a board game where if you have
yeah,
friends together and you're having fun anyway, you could bust it out and it would be just awesome. But
yeah, I could see that. And I've only watched a little bit of it, but I mean, I also don't have that reliable,
right.
social circles. Like,
If
yeah,
you're
I
mostly
have
a solo
friends.
player or an online player, it serves you no purpose whatsoever.
Like we do regular like game nights and stuff with my friends, but like it's kind of a toss up these days what we'll actually do, and usually it ends up just we play fucking MLB The Show, which is a goddamn terrible game. Um, and we just sort of play it and are baffled by the dumb shit that happens in that game. But yeah, that's really. I mean, there are some other things coming out, supposedly coming out this year, like Scalebound and
yeah, and that one. It's weird because I'm interested. It's got my attention, but everything they show, the main character is so douchey that I could not see myself putting up with that for a whole game. Like, it looks like an even worse. Well, I don't say worse because you like it, but it's like an even like a more annoying version of like Dante from Devil May Cry to me. Like the
and I was I'm gonna say that, which is like if you followed Devil May Cry and even Bayonetta, like I was put off playing Bayonetta because I was like, I just saw that character and stuff, and I was just like, this seems fucking weird and dumb. And but once you start playing those games, like how they feel, and like you get the humor of like what they're going for through those characters. Like, I'm not saying they're going to do that necessarily in Scalebound, but like the track record for the director is Hideki Kamiya, and I believe he was at least involved in Bayonetta, and he made the first Devil May Cry.
Well, that makes sense then why that's the games that I thought of when I saw
yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, Platinum Games, they're rooted in that shit, even though there are various teams at Platinum working on different stuff. The only reason I'll be honest, I watched that first like thing they showed for it, and I didn't think it looked all that good. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt and sort of follow it because I like the track record of this particular group.
Well, yeah, like I said, I didn't watch it and be like, I'm never going to play that. It's just I watched it and I'm a little meh.
Yeah, I agree. Guy seemed douchey.
It's the headphones that do it, or the earbuds, that puts it over the top. But like you said, it could be a good character, and that could just be part of the feel of the game. That's another game that I haven't really seen a lot of. It's like they only seem to show little trailers of it during major like E3 or the Sony show and that kind of stuff. So I haven't really seen. Now, part of it could be I'm not specifically following it either, so I don't know how much has come out. But I've not seen anything outside those like major trailers that they released.
Yeah, and that might be a game that I'm kind of like 2017 with a question mark, because we really don't know that much.
A few of those because I didn't put together a list of games specifically coming out, but I've always have a list of games that I'm like trying to remind myself to keep an eye on. So I've got a handful on here that I'm hopeful that they'll come out in 2017, but I don't know. I haven't updated this in a while, so I don't know if any of these have specific release dates. Wonder Boy, The Dragon's Trap, I don't know if you've seen anything about that. That's another gorgeously animated platformer that looks really cool.
I feel like I want to say I've seen that, but
yeah, it's like going for that old school like Sega Genesis platformer vibe, but like it's really well. It looks really well done, and it looks like it could be really fun. Little Monsters is, I have no idea, and that seems to be one of those that like, I think it's the developers are from like the Netherlands or somewhere over that way. It was originally called Hunger, which is a terrible name if you're making a game and you want people to be able to find anything about it. Because like search for hunger. Well, that's too many
subtitle,
things.
please.
How about hunger game? Oh, nope. That seems to have different results.
Hunger video game. Did you mean Hunger Games video game?
Right. It was impossible to find unless you knew it's Tarsier Studios is the name of the developer. And if you didn't know that, good luck finding anything about it. But they changed the name to Little Monsters, which is really only slightly better. But if you search Little Monsters video game, you'll probably find it. But it's the one that they announced 2 years ago, I think, at E3, with just a trailer. And you're like this little girl, I think, in like a raincoat and a rain hat. And at one point you're like going through this kitchen with these giants, like with these big cleavers. And it just seems so like almost Tim Burton-esque, like almost that like grotesque horror, but not like blood and guts horror. Like just this weird, like, it almost reminded me of some of the areas in Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, but much darker.
Yeah.
And it looks really cool, but I don't think it's even like targeting for 2007. I can hope it comes out this year, but the last I heard, they had gotten some grants, and then they decided like they're going to make it much more of a full-fledged, bigger game than what they initially decided, which usually means okay, there's going to be a 4 or 5 year development.
This might help you. They changed the title from Hunger to Little Nightmares.
Little Nightmare. I thought it was Little Monsters. That's what. Yeah. I need to update my list.
There you go.
Little Nightmares.
But yeah, I remember seeing a trailer for that.
It looked really cool.
It looked pretty. Yeah.
And like I said, mostly it gave me that Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons vibe, and you know how much I love that game. Those are really the only two on my list that are really worth mentioning. There's a bunch of other ones that'll probably come out.
Yeah, it looks like Pyre, the next game from Supergiant. Looks like that's scheduled for 2017. They did Bastion and Transistor. And
yeah, if I remember,
I like those games.
What I saw on Pyre didn't like immediately grab me, but that was like it's the whole judge a book by a cover thing. Like,
I don't know how much they've shown, but I'm always, Transistor didn't grab me that much when they showed it off after Bastion. And then I played it, and I actually liked that game more than Bastion. One of the few, but I just like their style. Yeah. Like they make a. They know how to establish an atmosphere for those games.
I think it's the thing is with all of their games too, is that it's they're the kind of games that if you see them in the trailer or even like a gameplay preview, they don't necessarily I don't want to say they don't show well. They look gorgeous, and now that we know what Supergiant can do, but they make the like little puzzly action things that aren't necessarily impressive to watch, and then you play it and you're like, wow, this is really smart design.
Right.
So it's probably a bit of that.
Yeah. There's a next South Park game.
Yeah.
But I didn't finish the last one.
Really?
I don't know if I ever will.
I liked it.
I just sort of like, it's kind of, I had a huge South Park phase when I was, kind of an early teen, but to me, that's just like playing a whole game of that shit is kind of exhausting, and it's
that's what's funny, because I haven't cared about the show since I was early teen, a little bit later teen, but it's been around since I was in like
and I don't hate the show really, but it's just I
don't necessarily hate it. I haven't watched it in 15 years because I just don't care. Like if it comes on and I see it, I'm sure I guarantee I'll laugh at it, but it's not my thing anymore.
Well, they're doing stuff with the show now that I can't really watch it. Like they're doing a lot of continuity stuff where it's like every season is a long storyline, and to me that's not what I liked about South Park.
Yeah, that's when shows die.
And that's kind of my problem with the game right now is like I think if they had broken it up into chapters, I probably would have liked it better. Instead, it feels like this one overlong story. Like, I think they could have taken a little bit more from Paper Mario 2, where that game is, an RPG of kind of a similar ilk, but it's broken up into these clear chapters So, like, instead of just always being South Park in their like fantasy setting, it's like, okay, now you're like in Paper Mario, it's like you're in a wrestling competition now, or now you're solving a murder on a train, and it's just this variety. So you don't get tired of the basic gameplay and the basic humor because they're placing it in all these different locations. So, like, that's my only gripe with the game. Like, I didn't think it was bad, and I put enough time into it that I don't feel ripped off by whatever I paid for it. I think I got it on some ridiculous sale. So,
See, I feel like South Park did that stuff though. Like when you go to Canada and it turns into like an 8-bit because they're saying that like.
I didn't get to Canada.
See,
to be fair,
they did that. There's a part with like the underpants gnomes where you get shrunk or whatever. So they did some of that.
Not a bad part, but they the joke got old, and I think that's my gripe with it. Like their joke.
I think my biggest surprise is that it's not that like, oh, you didn't love it and didn't finish it. It's just I rented that game and beat it in like 2 days, so it's not particularly.
I didn't stick with it. Yeah. Like I just I played it for like a couple days and then I was just like.
And I think that's what pushed me through it is because I could see that. I could see it getting old. It's just I was renting it, so it's like I want to finish this so I can turn it back in.
And I think it's also that thing of like, I'm sure that might have been around when Overwatch came out, actually. And sorry, South Park, there's no way holding up there. 2017 looks like it could be a good year if we're all alive. I know we all have our doubts, but the Final Fantasy 12 remake.
Yes, the episodic, but it's to me it looks good, but I don't have these like deep.
That's 7. That's episodic.
Oh, I thought 12 was when they were gonna.
No, 12 they're just making it pretty for PS4. But I had that game, but I never I only played the beginning of it. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to the opportunity to actually, play that game. And because I've heard that, like, people are 50-50 a bit on the gameplay of it, but they say it's one of the best stories in the series. So, so that could be cool. But I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more, but hopefully it'll be like this year where there's a bunch of stuff that's not on our radar or that we don't expect to be anything, so we're not even bothering mentioning it. That'll turn out to be awesome. There's always at least a couple of those, but
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look like a bad year. We had a pretty good year last year for games, and it looks like it'll be pretty good again.
Yeah. So, that's our year look ahead, and we'll see how it turned out at the end.
Mm-hmm. If we're like you said, if we're still here,
if we're still alive. I know people are doubtful we'll make it another week. So
day by day,
we'll have like one of those like Fallout radio stations.
That would be cool. I mean, I think that would play into our
still
wheelhouse.
Here.
We'd finally be like, that's the way that we'll become the big Twitch streamers. Is we'll be the only ones. Everybody else will get blasted in the initial nukes. But
we would finally have fans because they would have no choice.
Right.
Yeah, and until you are forced to be our fans, thank you for watching or listening or however you indulge this bullshit. We'll be back next week.
Yep, maybe.
Well, it could be dead.